Hello there, and welcome to John's Timeless Journey. You know, I received a message last week from Margaret, a longtime viewer. That really touched my heart. She wrote, "John, I spent my entire weekend helping my daughter move into her new house. At 72, I was lifting boxes, assembling furniture, and watching the grandchildren, all while ignoring my doctor's advice to rest my arthritic knee. By Sunday night, I was in excruciating pain, yet I still felt guilty for not doing more. When did I become unable to say no to my family without feeling like I'm failing them?" Margaret's message resonated deeply with me because it reflected a challenge so many of us face in our 60s, 70s, and beyond. We spent decades putting our families first, raising children, supporting spouses, and now helping adult children and grandchildren. For many of us, being the reliable one, the helper, the family rock has become central to our identity. But at what point does loving sacrifice become unhealthy self-neglect? Today, we're going to explore 7 signs that you might be sacrificing too much of your family, and more importantly, how to set loving boundaries that protect your well-being without damaging those precious relationships. This isn't about pulling back from the people you love. Rather, it's about finding a healthier balance that actually allows you to show up more fully and joyfully for both your family and yourself. As we've matured, many of us have discovered a paradoxical truth. Sometimes the most generous thing we can do for our loved ones is to take proper care of ourselves. Setting healthy boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for sustainable relationships that don't leave you depleted, resentful, or physically compromised. Let's start by exploring the first sign you might be sacrificing too much. Your physical or mental health is suffering as a direct result of meeting family needs. For Margaret, it was her arthritic knee that paid the price for helping with her daughter's move. For my friend Robert, it was chest pains after driving 3 hours each way, twice weekly, to help his son with childcare, despite his cardiologist warning about stress levels. For Elizabeth, it was increasing anxiety and insomnia as she tried to mediate every conflict between her adult children, becoming the family's emotional processing center. When family obligations consistently override healthcare providers' recommendations, when you're skipping medications, canceling doctor's appointments, or ignoring symptoms because someone else's needs seem more pressing, you're sacrificing too much. Your body is sending signals that deserve just as much attention as your family's requests. Setting a loving boundary around your health might sound like, "I care deeply about helping you move this weekend, but my doctor has been clear that lifting boxes could worsen my knee condition. I've arranged for a local moving service to help with the heavy items, and I'll be there to help organize and watch the children while they work." This approach demonstrates both your love and your necessary self-care. The key is being direct about your limitation, while simultaneously offering an alternative way to show support. This prevents the conversation from feeling like rejection, while still protecting your well-being. Remember, preserving your health isn't optional. It's essential for being present for your family over the long term. The second sign you might be sacrificing too much is regularly postponing or completely abandoning personal activities, interests, and relationships that once brought you joy. Think about it. Have you canceled your weekly card game multiple times because a family member needed last-minute help? Have you given up a hobby you love because family obligations consistently consume the time you'd set aside for it? Have you stopped seeing certain friends because any free moment gets redirected to family needs? Harold, a 68-year-old retired teacher, realized he hadn't attended his beloved weekly chess club in over 6 months. Every Wednesday, like clockwork, his daughter would call with some emergency requiring his attention. "It took me too long to recognize the pattern," he told me. Each individual request seemed reasonable, but together they had completely eliminated something that brought me intellectual stimulation and friendship. The insidious nature of this sacrifice is that it happens gradually. You miss one class, one social gathering, one exercise session, all for valid family reasons. But when this becomes a pattern, you're slowly surrendering pieces of yourself and your well-being. A loving boundary in this situation might sound like, "I've reserved Wednesday evenings for my chess club, which is important for my mental health and social connections. I can help you on Tuesday or Thursday instead." By clearly designating certain times for your personal activities and treating them with the same respect you'd give any important commitment, You signal to both yourself and your family that your needs matter too. The third sign that you're giving too much is feeling a persistent combination of resentment and guilt, resenting the constant demands, but feeling guilty for having those negative feelings. Martha describes emotional tug-of-war perfectly. I love my grandchildren dearly, but when my son started dropping them off without asking first, assuming I'd always be available, I found myself feeling angry. Then I'd immediately feel terrible about that anger. What kind of grandmother resents spending time with her grandchildren? This cycle of resentment and guilt was exhausting. This conflicted emotional state is particularly common among our generation, who often grew up with strong messages about family obligation and selflessness. We're caught between our genuine desire to help and our legitimate need for autonomy and respect. The truth is, feeling occasional resentment doesn't make you a bad parent, grandparent, or spouse. It makes you human, someone with legitimate needs and feelings that deserve acknowledgement. The resentment is often not about the family member themselves, but about the pattern of assumption and one-sided decision-making that leaves you feeling invisible. A boundary that addresses this might sound like, I treasure my time with the grandchildren and want to be part of their lives. I need some advance notice, though, at least a day or two when possible, rather than drop-offs without warning. This helps me prepare physically and emotionally to give them the quality attention they deserve. This framework emphasizes your love while still asserting your need for consideration. The fourth sign you might be sacrificing too much for your family appears in your financial decisions. If you're regularly compromising your own financial security to help family members with their financial needs, it's time to reassess. I remember a conversation with William, a 74-year-old retired accountant, who shared with me that he had withdrawn money from his retirement account, incurring significant penalties to help his adult son with a down payment on a house. It was the third major financial emergency in 2 years, William explained. I'm now worried about having enough of my own needs, especially potential health care costs, but I couldn't bear to say no. Many of us grew up in an era where parents did whatever it took to help their children succeed. But financial sacrifices that seem manageable in your 40s or 50s can become genuinely threatening to your security in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. With limited earning potential ahead and the rising cost of healthcare, protecting your financial foundation isn't selfishness. It's necessary prudence. A loving boundary around finances might sound like, I care deeply about your situation, and I want to support you. I can offer $X as a gift towards solving this problem, but I'm not in a position to provide more without jeopardizing my own essential needs. This approach acknowledges your desire to help while being honest about your limitations. In some cases, non-financial support might be more appropriate. While I can't provide the money you're asking for, I'd be happy to help you create a budget, research assistance programs, or brainstorm other solutions. This offers valuable support without compromising your financial security. The fifth sign you're giving too much manifests in the emotional labor you provide. If you become the constant emotional support system for family members, always available to listen, comfort, and counsel, while receiving little emotional support in return, the imbalance can be draining. Eleanor, a soft-spoken 69-year-old, realized she was spending hours each week on the phone with her adult daughter, talking through every challenge in her daughter's marriage and career. She unloaded all her stress and problems on me, but rarely asked how I was doing. When I mentioned my own worries about my upcoming surgery, she quickly brought the conversation back to her issues. I ended our calls feeling emotionally depleted. This pattern is particularly common among mothers and grandmothers who have often been the emotional center of their families. While being supportive is natural and loving, consistently one-sided emotional exchanges can lead to compassion fatigue and even depression. A boundary that preserves a relationship while protecting your emotional well-being might sound like, I love our conversations and want to be here for you. I notice we spend most of our time discussing your challenges. I need our relationship to have more balance, where we both get to share and receive support. Then you might suggest a simple structure. Maybe we could each have time to talk about what's on our minds when we connect. For more persistent situations, you might need to be more direct. I care about what you're going through, but I'm feeling emotionally drained after our conversations lately. I may need to limit our calls to 30 minutes so I can maintain my own emotional health. This sets a clear time boundary while affirming the relationship's importance. The sixth sign that your sacrifices are crossed into unhealthy territory is when you can't make personal plans without first checking whether your family might need you. Richard, a 77-year-old retired professor, realized he had declined 3 invitations to travel with friends because he felt he needed to remain available for potential family needs. None of my children had actually asked me to be available, he admitted. I had just internalized the idea that I should always be on standby in case someone needed me. When your default position becomes assuming family obligations will take precedence, even before those obligations exist, you surrendered your autonomy in a way that ultimately serves neither you nor your loved ones. Family members may not even realize how much you're limiting yourself on their behalf. A boundary that reclaims your right to make plans might sound like, I'm letting you know that I'll be taking a 2-week trip with my friends in September. I wanted to give you plenty of notice, since I won't be available for childcare or other help during that time. Notice how this statement doesn't ask permission. It respectfully informs. For more spontaneous opportunities, you might say, I've been invited to attend a concert this weekend. While I'm usually happy to help with the grandchildren, I'd like to accept this invitation. Is there another time I can help you instead? This approach balances your needs with continued family support. What's powerful about these boundary statements is how they model healthy self-care for the younger generations in your family. When grandchildren see you honor your own needs while still being loving and supportive, you're teaching them an invaluable life skill that many of us had to learn the hard way. The 7th sign that you're sacrificing too much for your family is perhaps the most subtle yet profound. You've begun to lose your sense of self, your identity beyond family roles. Martha, an eloquent 73-year-old, expressed this poignantly during a conversation we had last year. When someone asks what I enjoy doing, my mind goes blank, she confessed. I can tell you my daughter's favorite hobby, my son's career challenges, and my grandchildren's activity schedules in detail. But somewhere along the way, I've forgotten who Martha is apart from being mom and grandma. This identity dissolution happens gradually. The roles of parent, grandparent, and spouse are deeply meaningful and rightfully central to how we see ourselves. But when these roles completely subsume other aspects of your identity, your interests, values, friendships, and personal goals, something essential is lost. Not just for you, but for your family as well, who benefit from having a relationship with a full, multidimensional person rather than a role-bound caregiver. A boundary that reclaims your identity might begin with simple reflection. Ask yourself, what activities used to bring me joy before family responsibilities became all-consuming? What parts of myself have I neglected? Then communicate this rediscovery process to your family. I'm working on reconnecting with interests and friendships that have taken a back seat in recent years. This is important for my well-being, and I hope you'll support me in this journey. Now that we've explored these 7 signs, you might be wondering, how do I actually begin setting these boundaries without causing hurt feelings or family conflict? Let's talk about practical implementation. First, recognize that setting boundaries is a skill that improves with practice. If you spent decades being the always available family resource, neither you nor your family will adapt to new patterns overnight. Start with smaller boundaries before addressing more challenging situations. Choose a calm moment, not during an active request or crisis, to begin the conversation. Frame your needs in terms of what you can do rather than what you can't or won't do. For example, instead of, I can't keep watching children 3 days a week, try, I'm able to help with childcare on Tuesdays, and I've found some excellent options for the other days that I'd be happy to share. Use I statements that focus on your experience rather than accusing or criticizing family members. I feel exhausted and worry about my health when I push beyond my physical limits. Carries a different emotional impact than you ask for too much help. Be prepared for some resistance or emotional reactions. Many family members have grown accustomed to your unlimited availability and may initially struggle with adjustments. Remember that their disappointment doesn't mean your boundary is wrong or that you're being selfish. Thomas, a soft-spoken 76-year-old, shared how he handled his daughter's initial response when he declined to provide daily after-school care for his grandchildren. She was clearly upset and said something about how her father-in-law helps every day with her sister-in-law's kids. I acknowledged her feelings but gently held my ground, explaining that 2 days weekly was what I could manage while maintaining my health. It was uncomfortable in the moment, but within a few weeks, she'd arranged alternative care, and our relationship actually improved without that underlying tension. Another effective approach is to offer alternative forms of support that better align with your capabilities and needs. If physical tasks have become difficult, perhaps you can offer wisdom, emotional support, or financial guidance instead. This demonstrates your continued commitment to the relationship while respecting your limitations. Margaret, whom I mentioned earlier, found a creative solution to her moving day dilemma when it happened again with another child. Instead of lifting boxes, I offered to create a detailed unpacking plan and organizational system for their new home. I spent time before the move thinking through optimal kitchen arrangements and storage solutions based on my years of experience. My daughter later told me this contribution was actually more valuable than if I had just been another pair of hands. Some of the most successful boundary setters I know use technology to their advantage. Eleanor programs do not disturb hours into her phone, ensuring uninterrupted rest. William set up a shared family calendar where relatives can see when he's available for help, preventing last-minute assumptions about his time. As you implement these boundaries, remember that you're engaged in an act of love, not just for yourself, but for your family as well. By modeling healthy self-care and clear communication, you're teaching invaluable life skills to younger generations. You're also ensuring that the time and energy you do give to family comes from a place of genuine availability rather than resentment or obligation. I'd love to hear about your experiences with family boundaries. Have you recognized any of these 7 signs in your own life? Have you found particularly effective ways to communicate your needs while maintaining loving relationships? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights might help another viewer navigate these sensitive waters. If you found this conversation valuable, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to John's Timeless Journey for more content on navigating life's complex relationships and challenges as we age. Until next time, remember that setting loving boundaries isn't about creating distance. It's about creating the conditions for truly sustainable, mutually respectful relationships that can flourish for years to come. In the weeks after I first shared some of these boundary concepts in the previous video, I received hundreds of messages from viewers describing their attempts to implement healthier limits with their families. Their experiences revealed some common challenges worth addressing. One recurring theme was the difficulty of maintaining boundaries during holidays and special family occasions, when expectations and emotions run particularly high. Catherine, a thoughtful 71-year-old, shared how she addressed this. For years, I hosted elaborate holiday gatherings that left me physically exhausted and financially strained. Last Thanksgiving, I told my family I could still host, but would need everyone to contribute specific dishes and help with setup and cleanup. I was terrified they'd be upset, but instead, my daughter said she'd been wondering for years why I insisted on doing everything myself. Catherine's experience highlights an important truth. Sometimes what we perceive as family expectations are actually patterns we've established and maintained ourselves. Many of our adult children are more understanding of our limitations than we anticipate. They just need clear communication about what's changed. If holiday hosting has become overwhelming, a boundary script might sound like, I've loved hosting our family gatherings over the years, but I'm finding the physical demands increasingly challenging. This year, I'd like us to consider rotating hosting duties among family members, or perhaps we could try a restaurant for our celebration. By offering specific alternatives, you make it easier for family to adapt to the change. Another common challenge involves navigating boundaries with adult children during major life transitions, health crises, moves to smaller homes, or decisions about driving. These situations often trigger role reversals that can be difficult for both generations. James, an 84-year-old widower, described how he maintained appropriate boundaries during his recovery from hip surgery. My daughter wanted to move in temporarily to care for me, but I knew from past experience that her hovering would drive me crazy, despite her good intentions. Instead, I worked with her to arrange specific help at scheduled times, while maintaining my privacy and independence for the rest of the day. For health-related boundaries, you might say, I appreciate your concern and offers of help. What would work best for me is assistance with grocery shopping on Mondays and transportation to physical therapy on Wednesdays and Fridays. For the rest of the time, I need to practice regaining my independence, even though it might take me longer to do things. This approach acknowledges their love while clearly defining what help is genuinely welcome. Many viewers also ask about setting boundaries with grandchildren, particularly teenagers and young adults who may not understand your physical limitations or need for quiet time. Here, direct but loving communication works best, often with a touch of humor. Dorothy, a spirited 77-year-old, shared her approach with teenage grandchildren who treated her home like a 24/7 convenience store and entertainment center. I told them I love having them visit, but I'm instituting Grandma's hours of operation. I'm open for visits from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. with advanced texting appreciated. After hours, the kitchen is closed and Grandma is off duty. She reported that setting these clear expectations actually improved her relationship with her grandchildren, who began showing more consideration once they understood her needs. One particularly sensitive boundary area involves providing financial support to adult children. Robert, a retired financial planner, developed what he calls a counsel first, cash second approach. When my children approach me for financial help, I first ask if they like my advice on addressing the underlying issue. Only after that conversation do we discuss whether financial assistance for me makes sense as part of the solution. This boundary helps distinguish between emergencies requiring immediate support and recurring financial issues that might need different interventions. A respectful financial boundary might sound like, I understand you're in a difficult situation. Before we discuss financial help, could we talk to the various options you're considering? I've found that exploring all possibilities often reveals solutions we might otherwise miss. This approach offers valuable life experience while avoiding immediate financial commitments. For those who find verbal boundary setting particularly difficult, written communication can be an effective alternative. Elizabeth, who struggled with being put on the spot during family phone calls, found that sending thoughtful emails worked better for her. I can carefully consider my words, express my love and support, while still clearly stating my boundaries. It also gives family members time to process their initial reactions privately before responding. Regardless of how you communicate your boundaries, consistency in maintaining them is crucial. When we establish a limit, but then repeatedly allow it to be crossed, we inadvertently teach others to disregard our stated needs. This doesn't mean boundaries can never flex for genuine emergencies, but the general pattern needs to remain consistent for boundaries to be respected. Nancy, a gentle but determined 75-year-old, described her learning process. The first few times I set a boundary about not providing last-minute childcare, my daughter tested it with emergencies that weren't truly urgent. It was hard, but I held firm, offering alternative solutions instead. After about 2 months, the pattern changed completely. Now she plans ahead and respects my schedule. As we conclude our conversation about healthy boundaries, I want to emphasize that this journey isn't about withdrawing from family or reducing your love and support. Rather, it's about ensuring that what you give comes from a place of conscious choice and genuine ability, not from obligation or fear. When we set loving boundaries, we often discover we have more, not less, to offer our families because what we give comes from fullness rather than depletion. Perhaps the most beautiful outcome of healthy boundary setting is how it transforms relationships over time. When patterns of assumption and one-sided sacrifice are replaced with mutual respect and clear communication, relationships often deepen and sweeten. Many viewers have shared that, after the initial adjustment period, their family connections actually improved significantly. Martha's experience captures this transformation perfectly. After years of being a family doormat, I was terrified to start saying no. I thought my children would be angry or stop, including me. What actually happened was almost the opposite. They began to see me as a person with valid needs, not just a role filler. My daughter recently told me she respects me more now, and she's learning from my example about setting her own boundaries. That might be the most important gift I could give her. I hope today's discussion has given you both permission and practical tools to examine the balance in your family relationships. Whether you recognize one or all 7 signs of excessive sacrifice, know that it's never too late to begin establishing healthier patterns. Each small step toward appropriate boundaries is an act of courage and ultimately an expression of authentic love, both for yourself and for your family. I'd be honored to hear about your boundary journeys in the comments below. What signs resonated most with your experience? Which boundary-setting approaches have worked for you? Your wisdom might provide exactly the encouragement another viewer needs to begin their own path toward more balanced family relationships. If you found value in today's conversation, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to John's Timeless Journey for more content on navigating life's complex relationships with grace and wisdom. Until next time, remember that true family harmony rests not on boundless sacrifice, but on mutual respect, clear communication, and loving authenticity. Here's to relationships that honor both your invaluable family connections and your equally precious sense of self.